From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. And we have returned. Let's continue with our exploration of mysterious structures. Now, folks, as you know, one thing that we've talked about a lot in the past is the black box, which is the street name for an onboard flight recording device. These things are the first non-human component that rescuers look for in any kind of plane crash. They contain all the data you would imagine, the telemetry data. They contain information about the function of the craft, and they are a tremendous help to investigators who are trying to figure out what exactly happened. They're also not actually black in color. And I think we talked about this a little bit every time we look into a mysterious plane crash. In fact, they're actually painted bright orange, because if you painted something, just matte black and it crashed in the ocean at night, why make it more difficult to find, right? So these things are bright. They're supposed to be visible. They're a vital piece of every aircraft. And we have just learned that soon planet Earth is going to have its own black box, its own great flight recorder. And it's kind of inspiring, but it's also kind of depressing. Folks, if you're somewhere where you have access to an internet connection, or you're on your phone or something, first, as always, thank you for listening. Secondly, go to earthsblackbox.com. That's Earth with an S, blackbox.com, all one word. Just going to go ahead and read the welcome page for everybody.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Unless we dramatically transform our way of life, climate change and other man-made perils will cause our civilization to crash. Earth's black box will record every step we take toward this catastrophe. Hundreds of data sets, measurements, and interactions relating to the health of our planet will be continuously collected and safely stored for future generations. The purpose of this device is to provide an unbiased account of the events that lead to the demise of the planet, hold accountability for future generations, and inspire urgent action. How the story ends is completely up to us. Only one thing is certain: your actions, inactions, and interactions are now being recorded. Everything's fine.
Who are you talking to?
Says the dog.
Talking to?
Yeah.
Oh, you watching me, Earth's Black Box? This is really disturbing, and in a lot of ways, Ben, this connects up with our previous story to me.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. First of all, this thing looks like an obelisk of some sort on its side. Really, that's the way I'm seeing it, Ben. And it, if this thing actually gets completed, which I think it's going to be sometime next year, maybe.
Yeah. I believe that they'll start breaking ground on it in 2022. And once they start, it shouldn't be too difficult to construct it. They've spent a lot of time figuring out how to build it in a sustainable way. And you're right, it does have a lot in common. It's not super huge. It sounds pretty big when you hear the size, but considering what it's supposed to do, it's actually packing a lot. It's 30 feet by 13 feet long, just about. And if you look at it, just like you said, Matt, it looks as though it is featureless. It looks as though, you don't see windows, you don't see logos. It looks like a very weird pillar that has just been kind of awkwardly placed on this hill in Tasmania.
Well, it's got a geometric shape that doesn't appear to be natural in its surroundings, and it appears to be made out of a substance that doesn't match its surroundings. So it's specifically made to be an anomaly if, someone in the future comes upon it, right?
Yes.
Whether by land, by air, or by space.
Yes, exactly. And by the way, big shout out to our fellow conspiracy realist over in Australia, Patrice. Patrice had hipped me to this story. Patrice is also the creator of a podcast you can check out on YouTube now called A is for Aliens. So give it a listen. Being in Australia, it makes sense that people in that part of the world might be a little more aware of this project in Tasmania. I think you've nailed it, Matt. It is supposed to be uncanny. It's supposed to stand out. And one of the things, actually, that has been a matter of great debate with the team behind the project is how to ensure longevity and sustainability, but even more of a pickle, how to make it so that other later civilizations or entities can figure out how to open the thing and use it and decipher what it's collecting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? It reminds me of like all the work scientists put into figuring out how to establish to future living things that nuclear waste sites were not the place you should hang out. And they did all kinds of crazy ideas, Matt. They were like glowing cats, maybe phosphorescent cats, big stone monoliths with sort of like, abandon all hope, ye who enter here vibes on them. In this case, they're pretty upfront about this, to their credit. They're still trying to figure out how they would manage to convey this explanation. And then again, it goes back to, I would say, the problem is you have to think of symbols that are so fundamental that they would still be understandable in some way by like future human or non-human entities. And then, the other approach would be math, just like you and I were describing with the mystery hut, which I'm still going to call it until it's proven otherwise, mystery hut on the moon, and in great works of science fiction like Anathema, math play like the ability of a living thing to understand the concept of math is, I don't want to spoil the story too much, but that's a big piece of communication. And we see that with things that human beings have sent into deep space, because it's the most universal thing this species is aware of at this time. I don't know, man. It feels important. It reminds me of the Doomsday Seed Vault. You remember that? Yeah.
That's exactly where my mind is going. That I don't remember where that is. It's in Scandinavia somewhere.
Yeah, it's in Svalbard, Norway, which also just on a side note here, if you want to emigrate to Europe and you are having a hard time navigating all the bureaucratic hurdles, you can move to Svalbard. They'll let you in. Seriously, no fooling. You can just move to Svalbard. It's not the most hospitable climate.
Hence the Doomsday Vault, I guess.
Yes. But, it is home to something called a Doomsday Vault, so yeah.
The reason why I'm thinking about it is just going back to the moon thing, the beacon with the fictional Mass Effect story. If, some intelligent race comes to the Earth and finds that Doomsday Vault in Norway, and then you go all the way across the planet to the other hemisphere, the southern hemisphere, and you find this thing jutting out of the ground, you're going to put those things together as though these are, some of the most important ancient relics from this civilization and species that once lived on this charred planet.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway,
exactly.
That's where my brain is going right now.
It's kind of sad, right? Because it's sort of like imagine you're walking into a burned down house and you find a children's book, and the children's book is a bunch of drawings of the family, right? You're learning about the house, But I know I see that face, but not in a way that will unburn the house. The idea here is to document what is going on in the world now. Not just metrics, the kind of stuff a flight recorder would record, but evidence of climate change, list of species going extinct, levels of pollution, impacts on health. And they're doing this. This thing is connected to the internet. It's solar powered. It has backup batteries. It's specifically in Tasmania because that place is extraordinarily geologically sound. So it's much more likely to be around for a while. They're also collecting data into the past. So they're aggregating information about what were the ocean levels in 1970 or something. You know what I mean? And I'm not sure how far back it will stretch, but the idea is to arm those who come after humans with information about what went wrong, how, what happened, to maybe shed some light on the mystery. I don't think it's taking the same tact as the Georgia Guidestones, which, I guess we should do a quick and dirty explanation of the Georgia Guidestones. We actually drove up and saw them.
Yeah, we did. We made a whole video documentary on it based on our colleague Noel Brown's documentary that he created in school. A list of precepts that are etched into stone out in the middle of a field on a farm. And you can drive there and you can read these precepts about how humans need to be kept as a species to under 500 million in total. Mm-hmm. And then basically how to do that, how to live if we had a population that size. Right.
It describes a kind of new set of commandments that can be scary for some people, but even for the most open-minded person, it's somewhat apocalyptic and impractical because 500 million people's not everybody.
Yeah, but the rest of the stuff, makes sense to me. Basically, it whittles down to don't be a jerk and make room for nature.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I have in my head.
Yeah, and it's a bunch of different languages. It is cool. It's worth the trip if you are near the area. If you just have to drive a couple hours out, do check it out. Tell them we said to you. This black box is meant to be it's not really meant to be an art project. It's meant to stand the test of time. It's a collaboration between Clemenger BBDO, a creative agency called the Glue Society, and researchers at the University of Tasmania. You can imagine how some people are a little bit dismissive of this, and they're saying, hey, this is just a PR stunt. But in response to that, I would just pull up the meme of the little kid saying, why not both, or whatever, if you remember that meme. Because I think something can get PR attention, but then can also provide serious scientific work of value. So I think it's smart to do it. I think it would be cooler if there were more things like this around the world. I want to live near one of these things, Of course, if it were in a populated area, it would only be a matter of time before someone drew like a dong or they wrote, Jimmy Streets was here or something. I don't know who Jimmy Streets is, but
yeah, Jimmy Streets was there for sure.
Jimmy Streets was there. That's what his thing is. But we want to know what you think about this kind of project. Is it worthwhile? If not, why? And perhaps most importantly, what advice or insight would you give to the team over there at the University of Tasmania to help them solve the biggest problem right now, which is figuring out how people or things thousands and thousands of years from now would be able to open this box and, even more importantly, understand what they found inside. We can't wait to hear your ideas. 1-833-STD-WYTK. Again, thanks to Patrice in Australia. You can also email us directly, conspiracy@iheartradio.com. We're going to pause for a word from our sponsor. We're going to return with a story that is much less thought experimenty and much more dangerous. So stay tuned.